Do you know how the term meme was coined? In the book The Selfish Gene, Richard Dawkins explains that a meme is anything that behaves like a gene in human culture. The equivalent, let's say, of the act of reproduction on a genetic level would be the act of replicating an idea from one brain, to another. He often uses the example of whistling a tune. And now you might catch yourself in this moment wanting to whistle too, but so much like a virus, people can catch a tune. And he goes on to explain that certain memes are more likely to be replicated, not because they're true necessarily, but because they are catchy. The shorter, more replicable the meme, the more quickly and effectively it can spread. Basically, this is what makes effective advertising. Now, there's no one who advertises for himself more than Trump. And to be clear, he doesn't usually advertise for democracy, freedom, or truth, but for himself. Even during this interview with Zelenskky, his incessant need to advertise for himself takes up probably 30 to 35% of the interview. And much like a company that tries to make up for a shitty product through over-advertising, we have been sold a promise of peace that, much like inflation and groceries, are not being delivered by this president. And I implore everyone, before you hear the spin, before you see the memes glorifying Trump, go watch for yourself. See with your own eyes how Vance sabotaged the peace talk, and see for yourself the utter incompetence of Trump's statesmanship. See for yourself in real time how the supposed leader of the free world defends Putin. Zelenskky expressed concerns about a ceasefire without security assurances, given Putin has violated ceasefires, breaking his own word 25 times. Trump's response to that was, "That won't happen to me. You must not want peace." Think about that. This either exhibits a sheer ignorance of the facts and dangerous hubris, or he really thinks that him and Putin are such close allies and buddies that Putin would never stab him in the back. These are really the only two ways one could expect a ceasefire without securing the peace in some way. So we either have a dangerous idiot or someone who allied themselves with Putin against the democracies of the world. If you are on the right, you might say, "Wow, Ryan, you're reading too much into this." Well, if that's the case, why has literal Russian talking points like Ukraine starting the war or Zelensky being a dictator come from the mouth of our president? Words not enough to convince you? A few days ago, the US was one of only a few countries who voted to oppose the UN resolution condemning Russia's invasion. Those other countries that opposed? Russia, Belarus, North Korea, the literal countries that have boots on the ground in the war. Didn't know about North Korea's involvement? Well, probably because Fox News was too busy focusing on how Biden allowed the use of long-range missiles. He didn't do it, as they claimed, to escalate the war, but to counterbalance North Korea's sending troops. Ryan, you can't expect the Trump administration to vote to condemn Russia while trying to negotiate peace talks. He's just being diplomatic. No. There is an option to abstain from the vote, but the US actively voted against it. And that is a statement of alliance with Putin, not of democracy. Now, Fox News has already started the spin, saying Zelenskky was disrespectful, but I beg you to watch for yourself. Zelenskky is yelled at, talked over, and shouted down when he is asked questions. And I'll remind you that he is speaking in a foreign language, so all the difficulties that go with that. In addition to fending off the verbal assaults of a vice president whose actions can only be described as willful sabotage, and a president who threw a temper tantrum in lieu of discussion and negotiation. And thus we come full circle to memes and the need to over-advertise a defective product. I used to think that Trump was the king of memes, but that isn't quite right. I think about the difference between a gene and a virus, primarily the latter being harmful for the body and making you sick. We need a word to describe a meme that is harmful to our culture. Ideas that infect us and poison the very soul of America and mire us in division. Oh, there it is. Mirus. A mind virus, or a memified virus. And the Fox News' Mirus machine has already been shedding contagious lies about this interview. And Trump himself, during these peace talks, does what he does best and became a Mirus machine himself. A Mirus super spreader. It is past time we inoculate our society to the Mirus and to use truth and awareness as the white blood cells to protect not just our body politic, but the very essence of liberty and democracy. So anytime you see a meme that is meant to mire us in ignorance and erode democratic principles, call it out for what it is: a Mirus.